For 15 months, one project has been built toward a single moment. In northern Ontario, Critical One assembled a district-scale land package, recovered decades of buried historical data, mapped the geology, secured government funding, and earned its drill permit. And now, with a partnership agreement in place with Eabametoong First Nation, the company is starting its maiden drill program at Howells Lake. High-priority targets. One objective: turn a 40-year-old discovery into something that counts. As global antimony supply tightens, with North America producing virtually none, domestic projects like this one matter more than ever. This is the moment Critical One was built for.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today for this special Critical One Energy Investor Webinar. My name is Dwayne Parnham, founder, executive chairman, and CEO of Critical One Energy. Our stock is primarily listed on the Canadian Exchange under symbol CRTL and dual listed on the OTCQB in the US and in all the German exchanges. We are a Canadian exploration company focused on advancing one of North America's most strategic critical mineral opportunities, our 100% owned Howells Lake Antimony-Gold Project in the Thunder Bay Mining Division of Ontario. With antimony prices at multi-decade highs and North America facing acute supply chain vulnerabilities, lack of scalable feedstock reserves globally, Howells Lake stands out as, and soon to be proven to be, one of Canada's largest, highest grade undeveloped antimony gold systems, covering approximately 25,000 hectares across 30 kilometers strike length within a proven greenstone belt. Strategically located within Ontario's road and power infrastructure development corridor, I'm coining this new potential economic region we're about to explore as the Outer Ring of Fire. I'm thrilled to open today's webinar by announcing a major corporate milestone that marks a new chapter in our company. Just a few days ago, on March 12th, Critical One signed a comprehensive exploration agreement with the Eabametoong First Nations, also known as Fort Hope First Nations. This agreement establishes a respectful, collaborative framework for responsible exploration and potential future development on their traditional lands. It includes meaningful economic participation for the community members, environmental monitoring by local monitors, and shares commitments and protection the land and the way of life for the families that have stewarded for many generations. It's the first of its kind and opened up many new opportunities that currently aren't available to us. As Chief Adukan stated, we are finding ways for this project to enable members to get out on the land together and make it easier to harvest and enjoy our territory and way of life, which is a major change from the harmful legacies of other exploration companies. Partnering with the Eabametoong is a way forward. This partnership is a direct result of months of open, transparent dialogue that reflects our core belief that successful projects in the far north must be built on trust, mutual benefit, and genuine Indigenous leadership. With this agreement now in place, alongside our recently approved exploration permits and the Ontario government funding grants and the institutional grants and fundings we've done, we have immediately mobilized and commenced phase one drilling at the Howells Lake. With $12.5 million in our treasury, we have budgeted a full $9 million in exploration expenditures at Howells throughout 2026. To walk you through the detailed geological rationale, high priority targets, and the technical objectives of this inaugural drill program, I'm delighted to hand this presentation over to our Chief Geologist Officer, Matt Trinkler, PhD, PGO. Matt brings more than 15 years of Canadian and international exploration experience, including senior roles at Wesdome's Eagle River Mine and IAMGOLD's Côté Gold District. Our geological team, including Chet Eisencheck, and I always say his name wrong, I'm sorry, Chet, but and our geological advisor, Bruce Durham, along with Alan King, our geophysical consultants, all collectively have been instrumental in designing our modern exploration strategy and will now provide the full technical overview we've been waiting for. Matt, the floor is yours. Thank you again for joining us. We look forward to your questions at the end of the presentations. Over to you, Matt.
Thanks, Dwayne. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here. Today, I'd like to walk through some of the exciting updates with the Howells Lake Antimony-Gold Project. I'll talk a little bit about our understanding of the deposit geology, future prospectivity and areas of growth on a property scale. And finally, I'll walk through our goals with this initial phase of drilling, which we've just started. So here's a map of the Howells Lake Antimony-Gold Project and all of Critical One Energy's claims in the area. The current claims cover a strike of about 30 kilometers. As you can see in the square in the center, the Howells Lake area sits at the center of these claims, and it hosts the most extensive exploration and drilling to date. From Howells Lake, the claims extend northeast, where sporadic exploration has identified numerous mineral occurrences and showings. As Dwayne briefly mentioned, Critical One's claim package is within the Fort Hope Greenstone Belt, a part of the proven Uchi subprovince, which is a Meso to Neo-Archean Greenstone province. The Uchi subprovince hosts approximately 64 million ounces of gold between past production and current reserves. Most notably, that would include the Red Lake Camp, Spring Pole, and closest to us, the Pickle Lake, Pickle Crow Camp. The regional geology of Critical One's claims is defined by an unconformable boundary between metavolcanic rocks, which you can see on this map in green to the north, and clastic metasediments in gray to the south. This boundary, denoted by the red arrow here, is marked by a regional fault extending across a majority of the property. And the historic Howells Lake Antimony-Gold deposit, which you can see in the red square, occurs at an inflection between east-west striking stratigraphy and the northeast-oriented fault structure. Approximately 3,000 line kilometers of modern airborne geophysical surveying was completed in 2025, and this surveying highlighted this geometry to the local geology. East-west striking stratigraphy meets a large and extensive magnetic low, which you can see by the large black arrow pointing to the northeast. And we interpret this as likely a source for concentrated fluids and metals. The airborne geophysical survey also identified conductors to the west, the northeast, and at depth, which we previously highlighted in our December news release. From the historic drilling and recent airborne mag surveys, we are working off a model right now that's typical of Archean greenstone gold deposits. Howells Lake appears to be orogenic in nature, with formation occurring at less than 6 kilometer depths in the mesozonal to epizonal conditions. Aqueous carbonic rich fluids result in carbonate sericite altered stratigraphy and veining with antimony and gold mineralization. These fluids are derived from metamorphosed crustal rocks and concentrated along regional crustal scale fault structure. We also see intrusive porphyries at the Howells Lake historic antimony gold zones. Current drilling will look to see if there is a genetic relationship between antimony gold mineralization, or if such intrusive bodies possibly similarly exploit crustal architecture and maybe act as a rheologically important unit. Further identifying the shape and size of these intrusive bodies will also act as a potential targeting tool as we expand outwards from the Howells Lake historic deposit. Previous drilling at Howells Lake Antimony-Gold historic deposit was completed in the late 1970s. This included approximately 5,000 meters of drilling from 37 holes. It defined a non-NI 43-101 compliant resource of 1.7 million tons antimony at 1.4%. It's important to note that the deepest mineralization observed from this drilling was less than 200 meters below surface. The focus of our current phase 1 drill program, which we have now started, we are looking to drill between 2,000 and 3,000 meters on the west and east antimony gold zones at Howells. The main goal is to confirm historic antimony gold grades. and intercepts. We want to determine the true thickness of mineralized zones, orientation of the mineralized structures. With this drilling, we also hope to step back from historic drill holes and extend mineralization at depths greater than 200 meters. And we can all do this within the exploration permit we have, similar areas to the historic drilling. So with that, I'll send it back to Dwayne. We'll have some time for questions if there's any follow-up with this current drilling that we have planned. Thanks.
Thanks, Matt. Great stuff. So I just wanted to give investors an idea of where we are at this phase of the corporate and project development. And as you know, there's been many other groups that have leaded the charge in respect in getting drillings and things done before us. And it's been unfortunate, but we're only a year and 1 year, we're 14 months into this project from acquisition to get us to this point. So I think, you know, a small group of us are doing a remarkable job moving this project along with the historical data, identifying and interpreting airborne and getting us to this first phase drill program with the participation and partnership with our First Nation. So we're sitting currently at about 50 million market cap, let's call it, with a good knowledge of the historical resource base, you know, that was calculated back in, let's call it the late 70s, you know, at an antimony price of $250 an ounce. So you've got to get a re-rating just on economics alone, plus what we perceive as the expansion potential. So when you compare it to other groups that are leading the charge, like Antimony Resources, you know, they've got an antimony only, no gold deposit that they're drilling out, currently at 161 million market cap. And then, of course, Perpetua has been kind of the industry leader. So I use these two examples because midterm to longer term project development could lead us into a situation like Perpetua, where they've got a large scale, low grade gold deposit with some zones of antimony. The deposit's been drilled over many years now, I think 20 years or so. And, you know, given the fact that price of gold has now charged forward to the 5,000 ounce area, the deposit looks very exciting, and they're demanding now a $5.2 billion market cap. So, I mean, that gives us a good idea of where we potentially could be going over the next year, 2 years or so with this extensive drill program we have underway. Next slide. And then just give you an idea where our cap structure is today. Again, we're just under 50 mil market cap. We're 62 million shares outstanding, 12.1 million in the treasury. We've got a very strong founder ownership still, management and institutional through the flow-through funding that we did late last year. And we're developing a very strong German shareholder retail base that has been very supportive, and I'm very happy, you know, to have this group support us in the way they have done in projects that we've been participating in the past, and they're certainly showing their loyal and a willingness to participate again in this program. So we've had a pretty extensive growth. As you know, the market overall for critical minerals has been quite explosive. I believe the underlying fundamentals are stronger today than they were when the hype just first started, because we're really starting to learn where the supply chain disruptions are. And it's purely a China-US play in the sense of antimony, which is White House's number one critical mineral on the list. They have been importing 100% of their antimony from abroad, 48 to 50% of that coming from China alone. So when China disrupted their exports last year in around September or so, and then into the current market today, there's a strong need for the U.S. to realign themselves with new supplies of these types of materials, and antimony being one of them. Hence why you're seeing such a solid participation in Perpetua. It's probably their largest known deposit within the U.S. So we're seeing all kinds of government support. I've, in my 30 years working these markets from the junior marketing side, developing these startup opportunities into drilling deposits out, getting them permitted and such. I've never seen such a strong underlying fundamental position that we have today. And I mean that because not only do we have strong metal prices, but you're starting to see a lot of government participation. You're starting to see a lot of grants both in Canada and the United States, and you're starting to see the United States government take equity positions in junior mining companies as sort of a supportive way of getting themselves involved in securing these supply chains. So I think the market is very dynamic and it's only getting started. And the players that have the longevity will be the ones that will survive, through the good times, the bad times, and into the future. So I think we're strategically positioned well, and we're funded. We have a great institutional participation right now, and I think everybody's super excited about Matt's up and coming drill program. So we'll wait and see, and we're gonna deliver some decent results. Next. I think that's it. If we have any questions, we'll field those now.
Yeah, I see a few questions coming in. I can jump on a couple of these. The first question I see is, when do we expect drilling results and the announcements? So we'll be processing samples in Thunder Bay at laboratories there. So there's a bit of travel to get them to the laboratory, and then the lab is expecting between 2 and 3 week turnaround times. So I think about a month from now, maybe just over, we should definitely be expecting the initial results. We'll be pushing to rush some of the more promising intercepts for sure. So I would say, yeah, within a month's time, we're hoping to get the first initial results from this drilling.
Excuse me. Interesting question. Yeah, there is refining capacity, and I'm finding the biggest issue with the refining side of the business, the downstream side, is refiners are having a hard time finding medium to long-term feedstock supply. So we've had a little bit of material coming out of Southeast Asia, probably some Chinese leakage. But my assessment of all that is the Chinese leakage is finished. There's actually even an initiative from the Chinese government to charge people for selling illegally these types of critical minerals. And my belief there is that 20 of the 30 antimony mines in China have been shut down, and their largest refinery last June was shut down. So it gives indication that China has depleted most of their resources, because they have been for the last 25 years or more the primary source, Russia a little bit too, but the primary source of these types of critical minerals, antimony included. So they've been aggressively mining to supply very cheap product to the world for a very long period of time, and I think that's come to an end. So it gives an opportunity for us North America companies like ours and deposits to shine. And we've been underfunded, underdeveloped, and underexploring for such a long time. I think it's just due process now that we've waited long enough, and I think our time's starting to shine. So the issue, again, to answer your question, is finding secured long-term supply for these refineries. Namibia. So do I get rid of this thing? Sorry. Namibia, you're gonna hear some news very shortly, within a week time, on what we're doing with Namibia. We unfortunately tried 2 attempts to get others involved to allow me to focus on antimony in Howells. As you can see, these projects are huge. They're very complex when you're dealing with governments and indigenous groups and geological groups and the minds behind it and getting everything together. So my idea was focus on Howells, get this up and running, and allow others to develop our Namibian assets, which in my mind are fantastic assets. To have a copper producer scalable and a uranium mining license in one project is exceptional. So unfortunately, the groups have failed us. I call it a repo. We've taken those projects back, and I'm going to restructure those and deliver value to our shareholders, and we'll be making an announcement very shortly on that. Any more questions? I think we can, nope. I can do that, Matt. No, in fact, as I mentioned, we are fully funded at 12.1 million in cash in the treasury. 9 million of that is flow through. So we have flow through a budget of 9 million to be spent this year. That is, I don't know how many meters of drilling we'll get, 30,000, 35,000 meters of drilling, which, you know, that's what's we just started that program now. And for now, I don't envision any financings. If we're successful in getting our share price above $1, we have another $10 million that we can contribute to the treasury through options and warrants. So our funding it looks very good.
I have a few questions coming in on the technical side. Maybe I'll address here.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, any metallurgical issues expected? We don't expect any. There's, through the historic drilling of the Howells Lake Antimony-Gold deposit, predominantly all the antimony is hosted within stibnite, semi-massive to massive stibnite, which is preferred material to be refining. We don't see, there's been a lot of geochemical work done on the historic drilling, and we don't see much in terms of deleterious minerals or elements at all. So from a metallurgical and refining aspect, we think the deposit should be pretty favorable. There's a question on the Northeast Gold Zone. Yeah, so to the northeast of the Howells Lake Antimony deposit, there is a lot of historic gold showings, both in drill core and on surface. We don't plan to drill those immediately. We want to focus on the historic work where we know there's very significant antimony and gold mineralization. So we want to replicate the results of that and expand on those results immediately. So in the very near term, we're focusing on the historic east and west antimony gold zones. But in the future, we do definitely look to expand outwards to the northeast and also to the west, looking at the geophysical targets to the west and some of the more historic gold showings to the northeast. Maybe while I'm on the topic of metals here, there's another question on whether other metals could be discovered with this type of geology. There's certainly within orogenic setting and within a greenstone belt with intrusive bodies, we can expect to see some base metal mineralogy as well. There is some historic copper zinc mineralization on surface outside of the Howells Lake Antimony gold zones. So it is possible for sure. Some of the historic work shows that. The other thing that's interesting is, as I showed with the orogenic model, we look to be in an epizonal orogenic setting. There could be zonation to the deposit that hasn't been identified yet, and that could bring different richness of metals, more antimony-rich zones or possibly more gold zones. So as we expand that drilling, we might really understand if there is a metal zonation and more information on what we can expect from that aspect. I'll let you field a few if you want, Dwayne. What do you see here?
I don't see any of them.
Okay.
I don't see any questions.
Let me go back up. Question about market cap. It should be 100 million. I think we agree. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'd love to see it go much higher than that. But the market is the market. And I believe that we've proceeded very cautiously, step by step. And I believe that the major milestone to deliver the next level of value will come from the drill program. And you know, and other companies have shown that model. And I believe the stage we're at right now, we can anticipate a stronger market going forward, unless all hell breaks loose in the big board. But I've seen these cycles twice in my career. And when we see this tech disruption, the metal markets in general do perform favorably. So I believe that's it's a fundamental shift in investor sentiment, and I believe Critical One could be one of those more attractive companies at this valuation. So I see it as a value play right now with strong growth.
Agreed. Question on, can you explain the economic potential of gold since it is reasonably good grade? Yeah, there are very good historic gold grades within the east and west antimony gold zones at Howells Lake. The west zone in particular has very high grade gold intercepts. As I kind of mentioned before, the more infill drilling we do and the deeper we drill this deposit, we might start to get a better idea of that zonation and see if gold is a more important factor maybe at depth or further out to the west. But with current gold prices, it's a very, very beneficial factor to this deposit. And early mining and processing of that gold may in turn finance a significant, portion of future work or future development. So seeing those good gold grades is very beneficial, and it's something we're going to follow up on for sure. Let's see. Do you expect to be testing any of the very high geochemical targets in 2026? Yes. There are some.
Approximately 5 kilometers west of the main zone, maybe?
Yeah, there is pretty detailed lake sediment sampling from the Ontario Geological Survey, and those are important targets to us on our property. There's some base metals, but obviously of interest to us, there are some antimony geochemical anomalies in those. Some of them line up with our geophysical targets to the west, so we do plan to move that way eventually. That will follow towards later in the year after we do some of the initial drilling on the historic deposits. But yes, very good geochemical targets on surface and very good geophysical targets as potential conductors in the same areas. So. Let's see what else we have here. Is there any interest in processing once the claims yield the expected results? Do you have anything for that, Dwayne?
Yeah, it's kind of one of those scenarios where you put the cart before the horse. I do have a tendency to build these companies backwards, so I've been spending some time in discussion with downstream players globally. And I think at this stage, the alignment looks very, very favorable. There's even a new initiative from the Ontario government announced yesterday or 2 days ago, where there's funding for processing of critical mineral refining capacity in Sudbury. So I think the landscape is dynamic, and we're in very early innings of a developing kind of industry again, shall we say. And, the Ring of Fire is obviously attracting a lot of government capital, a lot of infrastructure going in there. I know we didn't talk about the first slide, but there's a lot of information on that slide that position us very well in sort of what's being planned. And there's a lot of discussion we have to have with our partners in First Nations and such about that, because there's so much going on. They're being inundated with all of these development plays and such, and they're really trying to participate in the best way possible. But it's developing at a rapid pace. We're seeing a lot of government support on all levels, and I think we're going to be a big participant in that. It's just going to be a little bit patient in here. Let's get the drilling going. Let's really figure out what we got, and then we can position all of the downstream stuff later on with our partners. So it's very important to do this step by step. Got any more questions? We're about 30 minutes now. I want to start wrapping this up.
Sorry, I lost my screen there. Yep. Yeah, there's maybe one more question here. Some exploration companies are using muon technology. Is this an option? I think that's using like background cosmic rays or radiation to do some 3D imaging. I'm not too sure about that right now.
Oh, we lost Matt. I can say that we've used probably the best geophysicist. He's retired, Alan King. I mentioned his name in the intro. With Bruce Durham, who obviously well known in his Hemlo fame, and Chet, who's been working Canada and abroad. Like, we've got some of the best minds on this deposit right now, and we've got a lot of information from the historic work that Chet did back in the 70s and into the 80s that was really just the starting point, because you got to remember they were just chasing airborne geophysical targets, very remote site at the time. And they did a remarkable, like, the quality of his data is just phenomenal. So we've been processing that, digitizing, putting it into the model, and assessing to get this new data. But I can tell you, Alan King's work with that airborne is just some of the stuff I've never seen before. It's cutting edge. And when you look at this situation in a three-dimensional way, using his geophysical model and his plates, and the way he can layer together all of the geological, geophysical, geochemical information into a targeting process, it's just phenomenal. So I'm happy with the quality of the data we're using to pinpoint our drill locations, and I think we can look forward to some really exciting news in the future here. So I think I'm going to end it there. We lost Matt, and I can't see the questions, and I believe we answered most of them. If you do have additional questions, comments, concerns, please email us. Most of you know where I am. Most of you know how to get hold of the company. So please reach out. We are an open book, and we're really looking forward to what's going to be happening here in the next few months. So thank you for joining us, and we'll be talking soon.